Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ the Jet. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and hello to AJ.
Hello guys, thank you for tuning in again today.
Yeah, been another tough week for us on the road.
Yes, I think so. So our games this week were visiting Bacup in a league fixture which we lost 2-1, and then we visited Warrington Rylands on Tuesday, which culminated in a 10-1 loss for the Blue Boys.
So if we go to the Bacup game, really, it felt like we were making sort of incremental progress, and particularly away from home, we seemed to be a little bit more. I say, obviously, at that point, we felt a little bit more relaxed on the road, and we take that early lead against Baker, but sometimes it's not the greatest thing to do, take an early lead. But we were relatively relaxed through that first half. The second half, it was a totally different game. Bacup came more into it. They got their opportunities. We couldn't hold on. I've looked through the VO coverage because I think a lot of people said the second goal was offside. I don't think it was, having looked at the VO coverage myself. I don't know whether you've...
I have, yeah, I can confirm that. It was not offside. Actually, Oliver Hodgson did time his run really well. So it was the correct decision. But I think at the time, looking at where we're looking, standing where we're standing, your automatic belief is that he was offside. It wasn't anything spiteful, and it wasn't kind of taking anything away from Bacup's ability to counter-attack. It was just natural instinct to think that he was offside at that point. But no, Hodgson's timed his run well, he's taken his goal well. I think it was, a very much a game of two halves. We've hit the front really early. Ruben Denton scored a great goal from outside the area. Him and Jack Flight have got the Bacup defence running scared. They don't really know what to do with the ball. They can't play it out from the back because of how much we're pressuring them in their own defensive area. We're good for our lead at half time, and then the second half sort of complete turnaround really, and I think it underlines
spotted maybe one or two weaknesses in our own side at that stage, and it was good management, stewardship in the second half that got Bacup back into it. But you felt as though even with that in mind, we deserved a draw at least.
I think we deserved a draw. I know Tommy Lawson believes that we deserved a draw. I think he's probably correct. Like I say, we held Bacup well in the first half. We had more of the attacking opportunities, but then in the second half, I think their fitness was on show.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that we looked as though round about just before the hour mark, we seemed to tire, particularly in the midfield, and then. Okay, they've scored their goal around about the 57th minute to equalise, and then they've taken the lead in the 83rd minute.
Yes.
And during that period, we looked tired, and then they score the second goal, and then we seem to come to life again, and we seem to finish the game the fittest.
Yeah, I think.
Oddly.
Well, I think that's a testament to the boys' belief that the game isn't gone, even though we're now behind. They're still believing that this is a winnable game, which it absolutely was. Everyone who was on that pitch that day could tell you that Skem could have won that game. But I think Bakeup's structure of how they isolated Jack Flight and Ruben Denton in that second half, I mean, we couldn't get much to them at all. They did really well to kind of isolate them, but then they imposed their physicality on them as well. They really did kind of do their best to outmuscle us, outshove us, every which way that they could. And I think that was, a really core part of how they ended up shoring up our attack and then hitting us on the breakout, which is, how they scored their 2 goals.
Yeah, and like I say, we've got to the latter stages, and probably one of the last or second last kicks of the game. It comes to Leighton Rimmer just outside the 6-yard box, and what looks like it's easier to score than miss, and he's missed, and it just sort of summarises our luck of late. But once again, it's a defeat, whatever way you look at it. And things, we've got 16 games to go, so we can still turn things around. But listen, let's not be daft about it. We know time's running out as well. So
time is running out, but it's also, I think most will agree with you, this is a incredibly harsh reality of life in this division. It's no secret that this team has been sort of rebuilt from scratch. The boys are starting to come together. Those games are now starting to get tighter and tighter, and maybe in games where the opposition could have run away with it. Earlier on in the season when we were less banded together and we had less fitness, less togetherness about us. Now the games seem to be a lot tighter. Maybe the scoreline certainly doesn't reflect the performance either. And I feel like teams are underestimating us, and we are taking the fight to them. With the addition of the Denton boys and Jack Flight has been great. The longevity and leadership of players like Harry Middlehurst and Peter Smith, who've both been with us since the start of the season. There are facets of the game that we're playing which are starting to come together and starting to see fruition. I'll probably be like a stuck record saying that I really don't think it's going to be long before we taste that first win. Yeah,
and then of course Tuesday night Liverpool seeing it come in many ways what you could arguably say a free hit, albeit Tommy didn't see it that way. It was an opportunity to impress and progress a little bit, and I think when you reflect on the scoreline, it's not great.
No.
Players have given up. We know that, and it's difficult to say that because these lads, the good lads, the nice lads, every single one of them, the absolute gents. But you get to 6. Well, I felt it. Let's go back to the first half. We're 2-0. We're 2-0 down. Yeah. I think Ruben's had an opportunity to score in the first half, and then just towards the end of the game, the referee had blown up on time. There wouldn't have been a third goal. Coming into the second half, you just felt as though you've still got a fighting chance of reducing at least scoring 1 or 2 goals yourself, because we seen, Ruben was getting past his markers, his defenders. He was getting down to the byline. He was getting past people. But then we have gone 3-0 down just before half time. We've accepted our defeat at that point. We come to the second half, and whereas when we played AFC Blackpool and we were losing 4-0 at half time, we came into the second half with a different attitude, and that was, well, okay, we're probably never going to win this game, but we can make the second half our own, and we did that with AFC Blackpool. We've come to the second half with Warrington, and we've conceded an early goal, and the Avalanche sort of comes across after that was a very difficult one. You feel as though one or two players' heads dropped. And sadly, we talk about the youth of the team and naivety, and but listen, takes nothing away from Warrington Rylands, exceptionally good team, really good team, particularly their midfield and their wide attacking players. They were exceptional. The one thing I did feel as though, and looking at them and the position in the league that they are, their defence is their issue, and I think if Ruben had a little bit more support up front, we probably would have scored more goals and probably conceded less because we'd made rewards. But that's all very well to say now after the event, but it was disheartening because even though the 3 divisions above us, it's hard to take.
Yeah, any scoreline of that magnitude is going to be hard to take, whether you're in your infancy in the Football League or whether you're, sort of 10 years a 10-year veteran of it. I think by scoring as many goals as what they have done, Warrington have shown a ruthlessness and a harsh lesson to these lads that you can never sit back, accept defeat, and you can never expect any opposition to take their foot off the gas in exchange for enjoying their football and trying to be as ambitious as they can in front of goal, which is what they've demonstrated exceptionally ruthlessly. So it is a hard lesson, and I think our boys will have done a lot of reflecting on that one going into the game that we've got this weekend at home to Darwin, and I believe that the lads will be kind of all the better for this.
Yeah, well, we hope so, because it could go the opposite way. Young lads, they probably feel it more than one or two that have been around a little bit longer, because things will change, things will get better eventually. But listen, we came away from, we'll just go back to the Bake-Up game, we came away thinking that we'd been harshly done by, and we sort of, our WhatsApp group went on fire on Saturday night, moaning about referees and the decisions, and I think we've become more sensitive to these moments, purely because of our situation as it stands now. Just think that we need to grow a little bit more and accept that decisions are not always going to go our way, and it will feel as though all the decisions are going against us when we're not having the success that we want.
No, I think it was a really difficult game to try and understand where we've lost at this point. Obviously, we've outlined that they were fitter, they counter-attacked really well in that second half, they were on home turf, so they had the backup of their own fans. Maybe we peaked too early. I mean, there's all these facets and variables that we could consider, but I think I don't believe that the referee had the best game, and I certainly think that there were areas of that game, particularly Bake-Up's physicality, where maybe the balance of decisions were a bit against us.
He was blowing the whistle every time we showed a bit of physicality, and yet Bake-Up maybe they shielded their physicality a little bit better. Maybe it was done in a more secretive manner.
I mean, we sort of saw it quite clearly, the aggression and the physicality that they were bringing to our boys, and it's sort of quite interesting that when we respond in kind, we're getting blown up for that. And indeed, I believe we accrued more bookings across the scope of the game than they did. Do you think it's a case of the referees and their assistants lose focus, and particularly if you, as a referee, if you let everything go in the first half, then invariably second half you're going to be showing cards left, right and centre. But I often think that it's because people turn around and talk about referees being, what's the politically correct way of saying it, not being
completely impartial. I tend to think it's more to do with focus and growing into the game. I think that they can have a cold start just like a team can, the side can. And they can grow into the game and make better decisions. I'm trying to be nice to referees because I don't believe, by and large, I know that if you're a moaning team and you're angry and hostile and you've got a manager that's shouting and screaming all the time, if a 50-50 decision's been to be made, then it'll go against you. It always has done. We accept that. But we also accept that at the elite level of refereeing, we have VAR for a reason because we know that errors occur.
Yeah.
And as such, referees are not perfect.
No.
But where do you draw the line between a referee not being good enough or not being perfect?
I think as a referee, it's a thankless sort of task. I don't, I think we give them the handshakes and the thank yous at the end of the game, but for 90 minutes, we could be calling them every name under the sun under our breath. I think in order to be a good ref, in my opinion, I'm no sort of qualified expert, I just see what I see, but I think you've got to demonstrate a good consistency to exact the right amount of punishment, for every single contact of play or foul, dissent, anything like that's got to be met with the same kind of judgment and punishment, whether you're blowing up for the home team or for the away team. What I do think is really difficult for referees is that they are not immune to noise, and I think that when you've got players shouting, coaching staff shouting, fans shouting, I think it can really be a bit easier on them to view in favour of that particular decision at that particular time. But what that then does is that opens you up to losing control of the game in a way that for every single foul, if you get that same amount of noise, they're expecting you to make that same call for them again. And when you don't, there's an even bigger outcry of, well, why? You blew up for that last one.
You mentioned something there about under your breath in terms of the criticism. Do you think as supporters, as directors of the football club, we should be a little bit more careful with what we say to referees and officials, or is that an acceptable part of the game now? I don't think. I think it goes against us, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think it could do. I mean, I think we've got to treat referees with an element of respect and stuff. But when
do you feel as though he lost control of the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I believe that there were a lot of facets to that game where I believe that he was losing control in the way that for the physicality of the tackles that Bacup were making, they were escaping punishment, whereas our players were getting called out, they were getting warnings, they were getting booked. And I think that shows a bit of an imbalance of partiality, maybe subconsciously. I certainly don't believe every referee goes out to knowingly manipulate the context of a game in the way that he would want it to go. But I do.
Do you think equally though the more seasoned player has a better way of disguising the way he fouls a person?
I think the way he fouls a person, the way he speaks
we're
to
a relatively young squad, aren't we, for starters? So
yeah.
we have felt, and last season as much as this season, we felt that referees have been rather familiar with some of the opposition players. But that would be the case anyway if they've been around longer and they've been playing at that level.
Yeah.
Then the referees will know them a little bit better than they'll know our players.
They will know the players and they will know the coaching staff. I think it's one thing though to address a team by going up and saying hello. I think it's for another entirely for having members of their coaching staff to enter the dressing room, which was observed in the Bacup game on Saturday. And I think that is where the credibility of a referee can be completely abandoned. They still have to hold professional sway over two teams, and I think they have to be treated, correctly, and the same kind of behaviour has to be observed towards both teams. And I don't think that was the case on Saturday, either for our boys that were playing or for our, coaching staff on the sidelines.
Yeah, listen, by and large, I think we all accept the fact that the standards are not great and haven't been for a long time at this level. But what we just alluded to before, if you put them under too much pressure, and these largely relatively young, inexperienced referees making the way in the game. There's so much the problem is there's so much riding on the results. And particularly for us, right now we're a semi-professional football club. If we finish plumb last, there's a good possibility we're going to get relegated to the Cheshire League, and we'll be playing amateur football once again. So there's an awful lot riding on it.
I don't think they understand that in the context of the decisions that they make, not nearly in the same way that we do, which is why it's all the more full-throated and appeal from us when a decision doesn't go our way. However, I don't think the referee's decisions had any particular bearing on the result. I think the two goals that they scored, they were correct. There wasn't any foul play or offside about them. He was absolutely correct to not blow for any kind of goal scoring opportunity that they took. And that's on us as a team. We've got to learn from that and grow from that. However, I do think the inexperience of our players did lead to a loss of head, if you like. A lot of our players got very downbeat at the constant physical aggression that they were on the receiving end of, and I do think that the referee does have some culpability for that. On the other side of it, though, I am grateful that he refereed the game. I'm glad that we continue to get a referee each week and that we get two linesmen. And I like I say, I do think it is a thankless task, and I do think that some appreciation does need to be shown to referees for continuing to turn up and continuing to officiate games.
True. Of course, listen, we've had that narrow defeat at Bacup, and then we've gone to Warrington and been absolutely stuffed. And then the keyboard warriors come out in force, which we kind of expect. Yeah,
defeat like this is always going to attract the biggest and loudest naysayers. What I was really grateful for, and I think the entire club will be really grateful for this one, is that we heard from Andy Barlow, our first team coach, who put a very lengthy message out to the supporters group, giving his full-throated backing to Tommy and the club and the project that we are trying to enact here. He's a terrific first team coach. He's a man who I've got an awful lot of time for, and to have his voice there, he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, you do take notice of it, and it was really good to be able to see the management team back the project of Skelmersdale United as well.
And the major issues, we mention them all the time, is one is having a ground. Two is finances. We talk about finances all the time because they do help, in terms of progression. But we also, probably the one thing that we don't like to talk about is the mistakes that we've made. And I accept that since I come back to the football club, I've made mistakes that anybody could have made. I sat down and I spoke to Tommy last week, and I said, I honestly believe that had we not gone through two managers last season, this is a big one for anybody that'll listen to this. Arguably, if we'd have stayed with Matt Potter and we'd have kept Matt Potter at the club, I still think we would have been relegated.
Okay.
Because it was a rebuild.
Right.
Similar to what Tommy's doing now. I think too much emphasis was made on staying in the North West Counties Premier League as opposed to the survival of the football club, when, in fact, I believe that had Matt stayed the manager throughout the season, we'd have had an established squad going into the second season, and albeit relegated, would have been a more stable team, more cohesive, and we would have competed fairly well in this division. I say that for everyone, by the way, because arguably you could say, well, if Pascal had been the manager from the beginning of the season, he'd gone through a stage of rebuild as well. And if you give any manager long enough, they will produce the goods further down the line. We keep talking about stability and unity, and what I'm trying to get over to people is, yes, we do make mistakes. They hurt us just as much. The 10-1 defeats, the 9-0s, the 6-0s, they all hurt.
They're hard to swallow.
They hurt
really
because
are.
you go to bed of a night, you can't sleep, and if you do sleep, you wake up thinking about the things that have gone wrong. But ultimately, things could have possibly been different. But then it comes back to that stability and unity. Anybody that believes now is the time to get rid of managers and bring new managers in. I think that they're on a different planet to us altogether if they believe that is the only solution, considering what we've just talked about there, the lack of a ground, the lack of finances, and mistakes that everybody makes. Everybody makes. So from my perspective, you try to keep on educating the people that criticise most. A lot of them don't attend the football matches.
Yeah, they're not seeing what we're seeing.
No.
They're just seeing the scores.
So you see me, I put out the occasional statement because I want to. I had a meeting today with a friend and had a coffee, and basically he's told me that I'm too open and honest. I'm too much of an open book, and I should sort of hold something you back. I shouldn't be as open and honest as I am. I believe that I'm doing the right thing by being honest and open, because I think that people deserve it. I'm just Joe Public. I'm just pushed into a position where I am the custodian of a football club, and I could pull somebody off the street. I could walk down the high street and pull somebody off the street. I could give them £10 million in a football club, and I'm sure they'd do a better job than I'm doing right now. But equally, if you give me the £10 million, I've got the experience of running a football club, and I think I could do a bit better than Joe Public. A lot better than Joe Public. But that's not the position we're in right now. So I feel as though it's complete folly to think that we should be making changes. Frank out, Tommy out. Who are they going to replace it with? Where's the magic wand?
Well, it's a complete fool's errand, isn't it, to try and start implementing changes when we're halfway through a season. We know the position that we're in. It's not a position that any of us particularly want to be in, but every single Saturday that comes around, there is always that renewed optimism that today could be our day, that results turn around and things start to go our way. Now, when it doesn't, we take the learning, we take the lessons learned and we take the positives where we can. I think it's really, I found a really quite nice positive in the, stunningly enough, in the Warrington Rylands game, which is that it is the first time this season that we have scored in 3 successive games.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been sort of overlooked, hasn't it? Really?
It really has, and I completely understand why. I don't think anybody would, look to find a positive from a 10-1 defeat. But Ruben's scored again. That's great for him.
That was a positive at the end of the day, because I say he played really well, and that was acknowledged by the home support.
It was, yeah. I think again, there are some of our boys there who are still with us at the start of the season. They're still playing for us. Alex Priestley was out there. He played again. Joe Langford's now reached double figures for us this season. Harry Middlehurst, yet again captaining the side. There are positives that you can take from this, and I think these are the positives that we carry with us into that renewed sense of hope that we have every single Saturday. And look, maybe it won't go our way for the next handful of games or so, but eventually it will. It really will. And the thing is, there's not any kind of change that could be implemented apart from a £10 million investment. But there are no realistic changes that Skem could make right now that is going to make life better for us. But we are all riding this wave together. Nobody's falling out with each other. Everyone still comes to the ground, everyone's in good spirit, everyone's saying hello to each other. That's what the beauty is of Skelmersdale United Football Club, is that it really has that family feel about it, regardless of the results on the pitch, regardless of what the table says. We're all in here, we all look out for one another, we all love each other, we all love this football club. Nothing that could be changed realistically would make our situation any better, which is why the current project as it is the best one for us right now. So just continue to get behind us. We're really grateful for your support, and we're going to need it on Saturday.
Yeah, listen, we're going to need it throughout the season, and we keep saying this, but the more the merrier, because the more pounds that come through the turnstiles, the more points we can generate. It is as simple as that. Money makes the earth move, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
There's absolutely no doubt about that at all. We hurt. We feel the same hurt that you supporters feel. We are supporters at the end of the day. That's why we come to this football club. Mm-hmm. We're supporters of non-league football.
Yeah.
And it's, listen, we love the football club, and we know a lot of people out there supporters. And we just crack on, and what we're not trying to make any earth-shattering moves. It's all about floating. If we can float this season, then we kick on next season. And I strongly believe that with that unity and stability, come next season, if we've managed to float, we will definitely kick on next season.
It's a positive that we are financially more stable this season than we were last season. It is something that I mentioned last week on the show, but the tools are there for us to be able to kick on next season. We've got better finances, we've got a great managerial structure in place, we've got good players who we very much hope will want to stay with us and continue in Project Skem. So just get behind us for the rest of the season.
Yeah, most definitely. And listen, we'll obviously come to the fixtures and other results later, and we'll talk about our next game tomorrow.
Yeah.
So a little sort of foray into the National League North, because we've got some local clubs. Southport's doing extremely well under Jim Bentley. They had a great win over Scunthorpe, beating them 3-2 at the weekend, and then on Tuesday night, albeit against strugglers Rushall, they managed to beat them and get themselves into the playoff positions. And they're only 4 points behind Scunthorpe. So Jim Bentley's done a marvellous job there at Southport in a short period of time. That we have, it's by all accounts, there's a fair bit of backing going into the football club now. They're also looks as though they're looking at purchasing a piece of land up in Banks for a training facility. That was news that has recently come out. So all is looking good for them, and I think
very rosy.
Certainly with the chairman there, I think they've been the early talk when he joined the club was about getting Southport back into the Football League one day.
I mean, he's on the right path for it.
Certainly. And then, unfortunately, on the flip side of that, we've got Marine and Radcliffe still losing. Radcliffe lost again on Tuesday night as well.
They lost 3-0 to Oxford City, who are sort of floating around that lower end of the table. I mean, it's not all kind of panic buttons for either Marine or Radcliffe.
There's a lot of games to be played.
There is a lot, and it's very tight down there. There are 4 teams on 10 points, and Marine aren't one of them.
Once again, highlights the fact that once you've got that promotion like they did last season, it's not easy to compete at that level.
That step is really difficult.
It's a bit of a shock.
Certainly is.
We'll talk about that later. But Blyth Spartans have been given a lifeline. They've been taken over by they've formed a community interest group, which is led by a local businessman, Martin Trinder. So good news for the club by all accounts. The outgoing chairman has made this happen. He did say that there was talk of foreign investments and people coming over, but what he didn't want to do is he didn't want to give up the club to just anybody.
No.
Whether he made the greatest decisions whilst he was the chairman. That's a narrative that he's probably written pretty much himself. But I think he's a genuine guy. Just didn't particularly knit well with the football club, and he got it. He got it wrong. But
yeah, he did. He did get it wrong, and I think supporters looking back on it will say that he's tried, but he's just not quite knitted with the fabric of what it is to be Blyth Spartans. Whereas, the new owner is a local man. I think he understands what it is to be part of the Blyth Spartans culture, history, DNA, if you like. And it means that Blyth can reasonably get their season up and running. Again, they have got a bit of a scrap on their hands.
But early days again, like you said, it's early on in the season, and it's not like us. We've got 60. We've played over half our games. It's unbelievable, really. I don't want to keep going. I don't want to keep going on about Skem, but listen, they've got a lot of games to play.
Yes.
Blyth Spartans is a really, really fantastic club with a great history, and you can only wish things work well for them.
Absolutely.
On the flip side of that, though, Walsall Wood, we knew they'd been suspended due to their ownership issues, and the chairman resigned, and then
the new update that we have is that Walsall Wood have now resigned from the league, which has been accepted by the FA. They've put it down to an inability to sustain the first team due to insufficient funds and a lack of communication from Steve Hobson, who is their chairman. They had the resignation of their manager about 2 weeks ago, and now it just seems that all footballing operations, as far as the men's team, is the men's
everything
team.
Everything else is going ahead.
Yes, it is. So the women's team and the age group teams are still running ahead. We have to give a shout out to Chasetown and Rushall Olympic, who have made the decision to honour all Walsall Wood season ticket holders within their ground for the remainder of the season. So
nice touch, isn't it?
Full props to them. It's kind of sad when you look at it. Obviously, it's sad for any football club to go out of business. But Walsall Wood were promoted from the Midlands League Premier Division 2 seasons ago. So they were a team that were really on the up. But looking through the structure of their social media, there doesn't seem to be any kind of word from Hodgson at all. There's not been any statement put out, after the suspension of the club. Now there hasn't been a statement after the resignation of the club. And I think we were talking about this last week about Blyth Spartans and their chairman, whose communication wasn't up to the standard that the fans would like. And I think this is probably a carbon copy. It may be even worse from him. We actually haven't had any statements or any words from anybody connected to Walsall Wood beyond the official statement of resignation.
So what we're saying is communication is good, and it certainly hasn't been in these 2.
No, it really
instances.
hasn't. No.
Sad, but you have a feeling with. Are you like me? Walsall Wood, I consider myself to be quite knowledgeable on non-league football, but Walsall Wood has just sort of evaded me. It's not one of those teams that I know an awful lot about. It's not like it historically doesn't seem to have a big. Listen, somebody will probably put me straight on that one. They've had a few sort of
cup successes at the regional level.
Yeah.
Haven't seen any massive trips out to Wembley. In fact, the biggest piece of news that I could find on Walsall Wood, beyond what's just happened now, is that in 2020 the club were fined £1,000 for staging a lock-in beyond regular hours, and it required the police to come in with power tools and break down the door.
Listen, they want to get back to the old days of the Blue Rooms at White Moss Park. I mean, they had some historical
chaotic
lock-ins then back in the day, and I think that they must have lost their licence on more than one occasion. I think they might have been a little bit more flexible then, because I think the police were probably in attendance when they were having their after-hours sessions, which was often the case back in the day, because they finished off duty and they ended up in the pub themselves.
Well, you just would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you get the feeling with Walsall Wood, it's not the end, it's just a hiatus now.
Possibly.
Do you think they regroup at the end of the season and start again?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we see this with
like Droylsden.
With a few teams now, is that they just have to reset at a lower league than what they are right now. So it could be that they sort of go back to Midlands Amateur and they start again from scratch. What I do think needs to be the case is that somebody needs to make some kind of noise about where the club is going to go, because they've, the resignation was accepted 2 days ago. We haven't heard anything from anyone, and I think if Walsall Wood are going to need to be in a position to kick on at a lower level like Droylsden, somebody needs to start making noise reasonably soon.
Yeah, you certainly hope so, and it goes back to what we say about communication, but it gets to that stage probably now. There's probably a lot of people feeling really hurt at the moment, and it's probably not the best time to come out and be public.
Well, no.
I think it'll come. Give it a week or so, and people will start talking again, and then hopefully it'll just be a hiatus and they'll regroup and start again.
Well, for the supporters, I certainly hope so.
Yeah, because nobody wants to lose the football club.
They don't.
Which brings us to another sort of contentious football club. It's Farsley Celtic of the National League North. It's currently navigating a challenging situation. They are now being forced into a ground share, which is approximately 1 hour 40 minutes away from their home venue. I believe they've got that agreement up till December with an extension with an option of extending it to the end of the season.
Yes, so for those of you who aren't geographically minded, Farsley Celtic is based in West Yorkshire between Leeds and Bradford, and they are ground sharing at Buxton, which is down in Derbyshire, 70 miles away. Now, it should be pointed out that the chairman of the club, Paul Barthorpe, did make efforts to have ground shares with both Bradford Park Avenue and with Guiseley, both of whom enormously closer and would have been far more helpful to them. However, the arrangement with Bradford Park Avenue fell through after 2 games because owing to Farsley Celtic's divisional position, they are 2 divisions above Bradford Park Avenue. The league wanted Farsley Celtic to have priority on the fixture list and on the control of the ground.
Was that the reason?
It certainly was, which is why Bradford Park Avenue balked at it and the agreement never went ahead, and thus the agreement with Buxton is now in place, as you say, until at least Christmas, when he hopes that the renovation of the pitch will be sorted, but there is a contingency to the end of the season if it needs it.
We get the impression from the chairman, his name is
Paul Barthorpe.
He's a little bit more open. He's spoke a lot about the trials and tribulations of the football club and what's actually led to this situation that they're in.
Yeah, he absolutely has. So at the start of this year, Farsley Celtic were placed under a transfer embargo in February, and that lasted up until June when it was lifted, and it was over a £50,000 debt or something, around that fee. Paul Barthorpe was very open about it. He put out a statement on the club website and the club's news feed saying that this is what was going to happen, and then the embargo was lifted.
So we've got a chairman that's speaking, but not everybody is agreeing.
No. I mean, obviously, having naysayers is part and parcel of any football club. I think what people are taking particular issue is that they now have to travel 70 miles and an hour and 40 minutes away just to see their team play home games. It's going to be so financially destructive for them. They're not going to take much of a gate, or much of a profit at all. He has done this in the past, though, Barthorpe. They've not played at the Citadel for a few games now, their home ground, the Citadel.
But the reasons for that are down to the fact that they've torn the pitch up, and the proposal is to lay a synthetic surface. As far as we know, that was underway.
Yes.
But it was stopped because of ground issues, because of what was actually underneath the soil.
What was discovered under there, it was some form of rubble or some kind of building material that was discovered under there, which is going to require extra excavation to clear. He had made the down payment to the subcontractors, and he had covered costs of missed home game payments.
So the costs have spiralled out of control. These are unexpected costs, we assume.
Yeah.
That he didn't foresee.
No, I don't think he saw the extra excavation being required. But now that it is underway as we believe.
But I don't think it helped the rumours circulating about other operational challenges, including about wages, payments, and such like.
That's correct.
So that's come at a time it's clashed with what's going on off the field.
Yes, it has, but Barthorpe has come back to that. So the statement was issued by the players last week, and I'll read it to you verbatim. Players can't pay mortgages or pay bills or put food on the table. While loyalty has taken us so far, the trust has been broken by the owner and taken the players and staff to the point of no return. Paul Barthorpe has contested this in his own words, and again a statement issued out of the club's social media. He's contested the length of time that wages haven't been paid, and it's only a few days missed at a time, up to a week. It was largely done down to his own absence due to compassionate leave. Obviously, Paul lost his partner earlier on this year, and he implements a third-party payroll company to pay players and staff, and payslips just weren't sent. So he contests all of what they're saying, and he's do so very vehemently. There's also whispers being around that the ground is going to be sold off to property developers. That's not the case. Paul Barthorpe has underlined and emphasised that won't be happening.
Won't be the first time somebody, a landowner's turned around and said that. We'll visit that a little bit later. But that's happened. Listen, we're going to be talking to the former Rossendale United chairman in the second part of the show, and he'll discuss the issues surrounding land ownership and such like, possibly.
Yes.
We'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah.
But listen, what we have learned is with the polar opposites here. We've got two clubs that are not speaking. The chairman or the owners are not speaking. Farsley's is complete opposite that. He seems to be a little bit more open and honest. By the sounds of it, it's just not gone down particularly well.
No.
For what it's worth, if I had to play, if Skem had to play all their games an hour and 40 minutes away, but we knew that we were coming back to a synthetic football pitch in a year's time, that's going to make us to 260 grand a year. I think I'd be a little bit more patient, because I think you've got to be careful what you wish for. So hopefully that will resolve itself. Yeah, it's a bit annoying having to travel.
It is.
So far, but we're in a similar position, albeit, you know, it's a 15 minute drive.
It is, yeah. It's not as though we're 3 counties away, as is the case with Farsley.
But I don't think they particularly had any choice in the matter, did they, really?
No, any port in the storm sort of seems to be the overarching belief in regards to this. I certainly don't think it was first choice. I think Paul Barthorpe would probably tell you that himself. But it is what it is. You know, I'm sure he's very grateful to the Buxton Football Club for allowing a short-term share. And with any luck at all, Farsley Celtic will be back at the Citadel very, very soon.
More domestic now. The sacking of Paul McNally, the former Skelmersdale United manager, was relieved of his duties on Tuesday afternoon. They lost at home to Newcastle Town on Monday night, and the results hadn't been good. They're currently second bottom of the Northern Premier League West.
Yeah.
So it was to be expected. I imagine things are rather difficult there because they've entered into a ground share situation with Widnes. I don't think that's a cheap ground share agreement. They've recently had their bid rejected for an asset transfer in Liverpool. So you can only see things getting worse for them at the moment, and I don't know whether getting rid of a manager that did so well for them last season, and the team is pretty much the same as it was. What's happened this season in comparison to last season, we don't know. But is it down to budgets? Is the budget being reduced because they've had to ground share out Widnes? We don't know, just purely speculating.
No.
But I don't think at this stage of the season, I'm a fan one to speak. Got rid of Matt Potter around about this time last year.
Well, yeah, but I don't think McNally will be out of work for long.
No,
let's put it that way. A really skilled manager, you know, is remembered very fondly at Skem. So you know, a lot of people were, you know, really upset that he'd been relieved of duties, but I think equally there was also a lot of you know, vocal support for his cause, you know, and his abilities.
Definitely. And listen, we wish Paul McNally and Graham Hastings the best of luck moving forward. Like you said, sure they won't be out of work for long. Listen, after the break, we move on to our interview with Steve Hobson. After the break, we are talking about defunct FC, clubs that have sadly met their demise. In the first part of our new feature to the show, we speak to our special guest, the former chairman of Rossendale United and current vice chairman of Ashton United, Steve Hobson. Rossendale United, a club with a rich history dating back to 1898, was sadly dissolved in 2011. It's heart-wrenching to reflect on the challenges faced by many football clubs over the years, especially those once considered too big to fail. While some have managed to find new life and continue their legacy, Rossendale United's story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of such institutions. It's happened to Rossendale, and it's a sad reminder of why we shouldn't take our legacies for granted. Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show in this second part, and welcome to Steve Hobson. Thank you for joining us today, Steve.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It's nice to have you on the show, especially considering your significant roles as the Vice Chairman of Ashton United and a Director of the Northern Premier League. Now, before we discuss your current responsibilities, I want to reflect on your time at Rossendale United Football Club. You started as a goalkeeper there and later became involved off the pitch.
Yeah, I ended up as the players rep on the board, and after a while, when I stood down from the playing days, I ended up working behind the scenes and ultimately chairman of the club.
Yeah, and the transition from wearing a shirt on the field to stepping into the active sort of volunteer role must have been quite different in terms of your activities, but it's heartening to know that your passion for the game remains sort of constant.
Oh, absolutely. It's in your blood. Football's in your blood. Being involved off the field is the next best thing to playing, but I still kick every ball on the pitch when I'm watching. Yeah,
most definitely. We all do, don't we? I've got really fond memories of Dark Lane. It was a very vibrant atmosphere whenever I was there. And I think I told you the story the other day when we were talking that back in 1982-83, we were in the semi-final of the North West Counties Cup when we faced you as Skelmersdale United, and we ended up beating you 4-0. It was a remarkable time and a day to remember because my dad was the chairman, and he had a sort of intense moment after the game in the clubhouse where he ended up having a scrap with one of the fellow directors. Not that I'm endorsing fights at all, but it was testament to both clubs that had a fierce sort of loyalty and passion at the time. So you playing at Rossendale was always challenging.
Well, I mean, that game must have been before my time because I was a goalkeeper and I can never remember letting four in.
I thought you'd say that. So what? Obviously, you've made the transition from being a goalkeeper. You've ended your career and you've gone back to Rossendale, and you've become chairman during a period of difficulties.
Yeah, I had actually left the club, and then there were some difficulties. Then new people came in to take the club over and asked me if I'd come back and help them out, which at the time I did. Yeah,
and it was. We're assuming that it was quite difficult at the time in terms of finances, and what led to the ultimate downfall of Rossendale. Can you sort of elaborate on that and let us know a bit about what happened?
It was difficult at first. There was quite a bit of investment came in initially, and then just that investment dried up with the economic circumstances at the time. The interest, you do see it in football where there's this boost where new ownership comes in, and I think sometimes new people come into clubs and all guns blazing, so to speak, with it, full of enthusiasm, and then they actually realise what it takes to run a non-league football team, and you certainly don't join football at any level of the game to make money.
Yeah, because I remember at the time, like you say, there was a bit of a renaissance. There was a fair bit of work going on in the ground. You built a new stand behind one of the goals, and there was a little bit of refurbishment going on around the club, and it was great to see at the time. And I remember going up to a neutral game. I can't remember who you were playing at the time, but you had all the junior section, the junior sections of the club and the surrounding areas doing a parade before the game, and I think that was on a night game as well, and there was a fairly decent crowd there as well.
Yeah, we did well for crowds, and again, that was certainly one of the things that I was involved in at the time, where we merged with another local team that they were called Walsall Wood Juniors, and we wanted to create a pathway. This is one of the things that's talked about a lot these days, but we were doing it many, many years ago, where we joined the Walsall Wood Juniors, and ultimately they ended up changing their name to Rossendale United Juniors, and actually still exist in that format.
Yeah. Who was your manager at that time when you?
John Hughes was there when I was there. Mickey Graham, I think, was there.
I remember Mickey Graham because he was a hell of a character, wasn't he?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. John was. Paul Coghlan was manager for a while. Jimmy McCluskey.
Yeah.
We had a few. Who else is there? Molly was there. Mark Molyneux, remember Molly?
Yeah.
Talking about characters, he was one. Mark Molyneux, and who else was with him? His manager is currently. I can't think of his name now. Was with him. He was at 1874 Northwich recently, and left there. Oh dear me! I tell you what, when you get old, your memory starts going, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely does, and certainly does when you're on a podcast as well. The amount of things you forget when you get a mic in front of you, unbelievable. But yeah, listen. So the dark days ultimately descended on Dark Lane, and how did it sort of untangle? How did it go wrong?
I did. I indeed. I mean, my wife used to work there. And I thought you could see the writing was on the wall where we were trying to do certain things, and the finances weren't coming to cover it for whatever reason. And then there was occasions where people would come up and they'd be measuring the ground up for housing, for plots of land. So at that point, it was clearly obvious that the people owning the club didn't want to be continuing in a football capacity, and then the writing on the wall, the final nail in the coffin for me personally was we didn't apply for the FA Cup or the FA Trophy in the following season after having been relegated from the Northern Premier League, and at that point I just walked away. And sadly, I think few people recognise this. When you're ingrained in a football club for so long, you're like a stick. Well, I was like a stick of Rossendale United rock. And it's so difficult to walk away because you know that when you do walk away, it's going to leave such a massive hole in that club. And that's without blowing my own trumpet. There was 9 members of my family there at the time. And when we left away, the club walked away. The club did continue. But as I said, it only lasted till the end of that following season. And now there's houses on the plot. I can't bring myself to even go up there, to be honest. I'll remember the good times, let's just say that.
Speaking of the good times, Steve, what is kind of your most cherished memory of your time at Rossendale United?
We had a season where we had 2 very good seasons. One where we were neck and neck with Colne Dynamos. Colne won the league on goal difference from us. We'd beaten them home and away. And then the following season, we absolutely smashed the league and got promoted. I think we went through till about March before we'd even lost the game. We conceded many points. And at one point, when it was 2 points at those days, 2 points for a win and 1 for a draw, we got the greatest number of points in the North West Counties and held the record for that. We won the league at Cantor, and we also won the. I remember playing Colwyn Bay in the Cup Winners versus League Champions game. We beat them 4-1 at Dark Lane. And we also had a good run in the FA Vars. We got to the 5th round, which it was a good run in the Vars. We should have won it that year. It was the year after Colwyn got there. And we played Sudbury, I think it was, out at Dark Lane. And we're thinking, oh, great. Started raining now, we'll batter these lads from down south. They didn't like the wet weather, but it rained and it rained and it rained and it rained. They scored early on, and then it was an absolute farce. We were just kicking a ball around on water. It should have been abandoned, but the referee wouldn't abandon it. Nobody abandoned it because of the cost of bringing them up again from down south. So it was heartbreaking, that was, because that was our real opportunity of getting there. So. But yeah, fantastic memories. Absolutely love the place, love the club, love the supporters. I still live in the town, and it's a real shame. But you come to a point when things do finish. You just have to draw a line under it. Remember the good times and move on.
Yeah, and staying involved in football after such a experience couldn't have been easy for you.
It wasn't. I mean, like you say, you're ingrained in one club. It's very, very difficult to move to another one. I was fortunate. I was a league director at the time of the Northern Premier League when I left Dark Lane, and I wanted to remain in that capacity, so I had to go to another club. And it just so happened that the chairman at Ashton was a colleague of mine, and he just said, "Look, do you fancy getting involved with us?" There's 2 or 3 clubs I could have gone to, but I chose Ashton because I actually made my debut there as a 16 and a half I was. We played in the old Cheshire League days. And you remember your first club, it's there with you. It's like kids going to football. You remember the first ground you went to. You remember the first team you watched. And I always had that soft spot for Ashton. So I rocked up there, and I've been there about 13 years now.
Yeah.
Do you still have those same kind of feelings for Ashton as you did at Rossendale, or is there a much more kind of professional feeling towards Ashton?
No, I'm an all-in person. Me, I can't do things by bits. And I'm all in at Ashton. I love the place. I've got some good people around us. We've got some great volunteers, absolutely phenomenal people. We've been very lucky. I've seen the other side of the coin where Ashton was 5-6 years ago, was held together with bits of string and sellotape, a typical non-league club that's struggling to survive and to do well. And we actually, believe it or not, got promotion to the National League North. And boy, was that a shock to our system. We got promoted up there, and within a month of us getting promoted, pretty much all of our promotion-winning squad was taken. They'd gone to other clubs for better wages, better conditions, and it was a real blow. But to us, and I've learned the lessons in the past, the club was more important than putting players out on the pitch, and that's the biggest lesson you have to learn. You've got to operate within your means. So we got to about November, and I said to the other board members, they were quite elderly, the board members, fantastic people who did marvellous stuff at Ashton. I said to them, look, unless we do something about this, we're going to end up getting relegated, and not only will we be relegated from the National League, we'll tumble down the leagues because we'll be on our knees, and none of us are getting any younger. So they agreed that they'd all stand down if we got the right kind of people in. So what I did is I went on Twitter and I put a picture of the Dragon's Den chairs on there. I said, Ashton United, Southport Football Club, gone as far as it can with its current board, we need a dragon. And we got two wonderful, wonderful people from a fantastic family. And I was absolutely bricking it, if I'm honest, because one of them was a property developer, and you're thinking, oh no, here we go again. Going to give the ground up, but we did due diligence on them, and found out this father and son, granddad, had played for Ashton in the 60s. He was the captain of the club for 12 years. He currently holds the record for the most number of games for Ashton United. I think it's 420 games that will never be broken. And they wanted to get involved in the club and put back into Ashton what they got as children. And you know what? The club's gone from black to white overnight. It really is a lovely place to be. We've got a fantastic ownership. My job is to keep the problems away from them as vice chairman. We've got other directors that work the socks off. We've got volunteers that work the socks off. We have a charity arm associated to the club that's really, really thriving. And our supporters and the local people are 100% behind the club. So it's a great place to be.
Yeah. And listen, isn't social media a great sort of platform to get people involved with a football club? I mean, to sort of open one or two people's eyes and imaginations, because at that particular stage, we always talk about there's no magic wand. You know, we're struggling at the moment ourselves, but there's no magic wand. But it appears that, putting that little Dragon's Den, we need a dragon on Twitter, seems to have been certainly for Ashton United a bit of a magic wand moment.
Yeah, I mean, you have to try these things, and it can be a fantastic tool also. We've seen the negative side to it, and often you only hear about the negative side. I mean, I've got another story for you there. You may well recall it from years ago when the World Cup was on. We did a bit of a spoof. Our media manager, Matt, said, you know what, let's put 7 days notice in for Erling Haaland, because he plays for Norway, he's not going to the World Cup.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, we'll put 7 days notice in for him, just for a laugh.
I heard about that. That was you.
Yeah. We got 48 million hits from all over the world. We were doing TV interviews from Egypt, Australia, New Zealand. It went absolutely ballistic. Do you know what? The only thing that I'm kicking myself for is that following that Twitter message going out, that we didn't send another one that said, we'd like a 3G pitch at Ashton. Would anybody like to donate 50p? If we'd have got 10 million 50p's, we'd have had one hell of a 3G pitch, I can tell you. But you know,
well, it highlights the how powerful Twitter can be, because if you remember back to the pandemic, Marine played Tottenham in the third round of the FA Cup, and as a result of that, the virtual tickets that they sold, they eventually managed to be in a position to afford an artificial pitch themselves.
Yes, it's true. I mean, as it happens, Marine are very, very close friends of mine, and I do a lot of work with them in their charity. And yes, I did see that at the time, and they had the forethought though to structure the club in such a way that they have it's structured in a way that there's a limited company running the or a company arm running the clubhouse and the bar and the tent, the income generators, and they have a community arm that's able to attract grant funding in from charitable sources and helps them deliver community impact in their community that builds up the goodwill in and around the club. I mean, if Marine would have had a bad reputation, you don't think anybody would be buying virtual tickets. It's built on the fact that Marine is such, and has been for many, many years, a good, welcoming, well-run football club. And I think you've got to look at your club in that way and look at it in the round rather than just at your first team.
And I think when we were talking the other day, you did mention about the fact that you help with the Fit for Funding guide, is it, to help people through grant application. But what you did say was it's all very well and good having 70%, getting 70% funding, but if you can't find the 30% of your own money to support it, the grant situation is not great.
Yeah, it can be difficult, but often, sometimes you don't need 30% of your own money. If you can get 30% in from somewhere else, maybe from another grant funder, or even from some benefactor that will help provide that 30%. And he's thinking long term. You see, a lot of clubs, certainly lower down the leagues, throw everything at the pitch, and they throw everything at the players. And unfortunately, they're very, very good on the pitch, doing fantastically well. And as they climb up the league, it gets harder and harder because you've got more criteria to meet regarding standards, rules, regulations, licensing, all that kind of stuff. And one of our jobs, certainly within the Northern Premier League, is to work with our clubs and also Step 5 clubs to try and get them fit to be able to climb up the leagues and understand what it actually takes.
Sure. On that note, Steve, this was something that we were discussing in the podcast episode last week. Do you believe that each team has kind of a limit that they can reach in terms of their leagues, or is there a point that that clubs kind of go beyond their means in the hopes of getting as up high as they can?
Yeah, much depends on your infrastructure, and if you're building your club on a sound base. I mean, clearly, if you're a club that's got no facilities whatsoever, you can't climb the leagues unless you look at your facilities. Ground grading or the assessment of grounds is very important, because if you're going to put matches on, you've got to put them on safely. So you've got to consider all these factors if you're going to climb up the leagues. Have you got the volunteers in place to be able to cope with it? Can you afford stewarding? Can you afford the additional costs of going up? And I assure you, as you climb each league, it gets more and more expensive. Off the field, regardless of what you're having to pay on the pitch, off the field it costs you a lot more. You've got more travel, coaches, for example, insurance you've got to put in place, stewarding costs. As I said, the number of seats you've got to have in your ground, all that lot is dependent on whether your club, and each club is different, but the rules are clearly in place. And if you've got ambitions of climbing up through the leagues, make sure you do it within the rules. Otherwise, you get relegated again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Speaking on that then, Steve, what are your ambitions for Ashton United in kind of the immediate future and the far future?
I think our immediate ambition is to get to the National League North. Our chairman's made that quite clear, and I'm delighted that they have listened to what I've had to say to them. I've just had a conversation with you about infrastructure. Our owners have been in there for 4 years, and they've absolutely focused on the infrastructure of the club. We've had a new clubhouse, we've had new pitch laid down, new pitch barrier, new toilets, new kitchen. Currently looking at floodlights, new stand gone up, scoreboard. All the investment has primarily gone into the infrastructure of the club to get us in a position that if we do decide to go up to the next league or try to go up to the next league, and it's not guaranteed, we will stay there and we'll have the resources to do it. So our ambition is to get to National League North. As it stands at the moment, I wouldn't want to see us going any higher than that, although you never say never. In football, you've got to have ambition. But I think our level is National League North at best. Who knows after that? If you get there, the plan is obviously to consolidate in that league and then see if you can push on to the higher league.
And in terms of continuing with the infrastructure there, any plans for an underground car park? Because it's really difficult to park at Ashton United, isn't it?
It is. It's all on-street parking, which is it's a shame. But you know what? We don't have any problems at all with the on-street park. Yes, it is awkward to park here, but you go to play. You look at Buxton, for example. We've got a 3G pitch. They've got one road there that people can park on. Marine, you can't get worse parking than you've got at Marine.
You've got Prescott cables as well. That's difficult, is it?
Yeah, that's another one, isn't it? You know, so clubs do survive with on-street parking around the way, but it does create an issue if you wanted a 3G pitch, for example. So, because there's even more parking coming, you end up annoying all the locals. I mean, one of our ways around that, to be fair, is this is why our charity arm is so strong. We you know, through what we deliver off the field through our charity, we've got very, very good relationships with the local community. So if you do want to make any changes, you've got all that goodwill banked up, and a lot of people see what you're trying to achieve and will support you because they know that you've got a community focus around your football club.
Yeah, which is really, really important. I was going to ask the question because I've not asked anybody this before, but in terms of the non-league pyramid now, you probably know a great deal more about it than I do, but back in the day, the feeder league to the Northern Premier League was the North West Counties, and the Northern Premier League was the feeder league to the Football League. Now, I think the division that we're in now, the second division of the North West Counties, we're sort of 6 divisions away from even imagining that happening, and certainly the likes of a local Wigan club replacing a Southport anytime soon is not going to happen. Do you feel as though it's been watered? I often say that the pyramid has been watered down, but then when I look at it and look at the quality of the teams, I was shocked by the amount of decent football clubs at our current level.
I think there's a change in football at the moment where the actual number of football clubs across the country is reducing quite dramatically. However, the number of teams across the landscape is going through the roof. And what you're finding is good community clubs will have a tail behind them, if you will, of junior teams, women's teams, disability teams, community profile, and you've got some massive clubs over in your part of the world. Well, certainly over in Liverpool, I think there's a club over there. I believe about 280 teams within the club. These are big businesses when you consider the amount of income coming in, and I think the focus now from the FA is to focus on these clubs and giving them the support to become sustainable. Gone are the days of operating out of a tin box. You know, subs coming in and subs going out, and brown envelopes and all that went on many years ago. You really need to run your club, your football club, as a business. And if you do, and you run it right, there's plenty of support out there to help you. And you will grow, and you'll grow from the bottom up rather than just chucking money at a few players on the pitch who will move clubs for a fiver extra.
And yet, the more clubs that you have at this level, the difficulties are obviously, we've seen that there's been a fair bit of lateral movement. We've seen it last season. Clubs were reprieved. Clubs were also moved laterally because of the imbalance. Are we getting any closer to, or does it just make it more difficult?
I think we're getting closer. I think one of the things you are seeing are some of these junior sides that have got, they've been going for 10, 15 years or something like that, and you've had junior players coming up, they've been with the clubs for a long time, they built up their infrastructure, they're coming in and joining the National League system with a very strong business argument and community profile, and there's some very good clubs out there doing that. On the other side of the coin, you've got a few clubs that have just muddled along. They've ploughed their own furrow. They've not listened to advice and support, and they've found themselves struggling because they can't get the kind of volunteers in that they wanted to, that they would like. You know, it's difficult to attract volunteers these days. Whereas these junior clubs, as I say, they've built themselves on a solid foundation. They've got hundreds of parents in there in one shape or another volunteering, and they're a real good community asset, and it's natural progression, really.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, listen, just revisiting back to the point where we started, and you've obviously mentioned an awful lot about having a good sound business model. You certainly learned from the mistakes that were made, and not necessarily your own at Rossendale United. Clubs are still making fundamental mistakes, and that will continue. But like you say, the greater the business model, the better it will get. How do you stop repeating the mistakes, the bad mistakes? How do people stop making mistakes? We've made them.
I think from the Football Authority's point of view, greater scrutiny. I think you're going to see right the way through the pyramid over the years that licensing will come in. So the leagues, FA will be able to check that clubs aren't operating beyond their means, that are investing in their grounds, for example. To me, you know, if you've got a club that the ground is absolutely falling down and it's not safe for people to go there, yet they're really successful because the players are on top wages, that's cheating for me, because they're not complying with the rules of that are put there in place to ensure that there's a level playing field. You can't live beyond your means. You can't live beyond your means in life. Yet you see some people that get involved in football clubs, and their business acumen goes right out the window. You know, they'll have successful businesses in the business world. Suddenly they get involved in football. They're just mad.
It doesn't matter at what level you are, really, does it? Because if you look at Everton Football Club as an example,
yeah. You're right, Frank. Absolutely right. It just makes no sense, some of the decisions that some people make. But hey, well, those that are built on a sound footing, I think it's like the tortoise in the air. You get these uber successful clubs that come out of nothing and fly past you. And then when the money runs out about 3 or 4 years later, and they've not invested properly, and the benefactor walks away, that club comes past you again, but going in the other direction.
Yeah.
And little old Ashton's plodding along bit by bit, investing, and you know, there's a lot of clubs like us who get their head down, they work hard, and they build the club up from the bottom upwards. And we are more than happy to share our experiences with any other club of football. What we don't do in football is kick each other off the field of play. Most clubs will help another club out nearby, anywhere. I get calls from all over the place from people, and I love talking football, and I love trying to help other clubs if I can do. But on a match day, and that referee blows his whistle, I hate the opposition for 45 minutes. Then we have a break for 15. Yeah. Then the second half kicks off, and I don't speak to anybody again until the final whistle, and then we're back friends again. I can't lose that.
No, that's how football goes.
Yeah, one day it can build you up, the next day it can come tumbling down with emotions, and that's certainly what's happening at Skelm at the moment. But listen, Steve, it's been fascinating listening to you, and listen, the best of luck for the rest of the season and moving forward.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much. Good luck to Skelm as well.
Thanks for your time. Cheers. Take care.
Bye now. Steve. Thank you. Bye.
Bye now. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme. And, of course, the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Berquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. And now we've arrived at the final part of our show, where we cover the Northwest Counties, which is our area of expertise. I don't think there was any big shocks, particularly in the Premier Division last week. Bury did the business at Cone, which we mentioned could have been a potential banana skin, but it wasn't. Ramsbottom had a comfortable win at Remica and increased their lead to 5 points at the top.
Yeah, they did. Luke Sefton grabbing himself a hat-trick there.
And although I've spelt it wrong, Cheriton's defeat to the Isle of Man gave them that to the option. Isle of Man yet again doing really, really well. Doing
some serious business in there. So that win at Chadderton's now lifted them into the playoffs. They're a point ahead of West Didsbury and Chorlton, 2 points ahead of AFC Liverpool, both of whom do have games in hand on Isle of Man, but you certainly wouldn't count Isle of Man out of that mix come the end of the season.
No. I wouldn't count West Didsbury. I mean, they've played a few games less than some of the teams in the top five there.
Yes, they have.
What I love about West Didsbury and Chorlton, they went there last season, and they have it was a night game, and they had a really healthy crowd on that particular occasion. Huge student population that support the local football club. Very vocal, very friendly. Very, very cold in the winter. We went on a summer's night, but they're a club that are doing well in terms of support. They're sort of like an honest football club, and you assume that they're making their money through the gate rather than have a big financial backer.
Well, I mean, it's a good. It's a good outlet for students, actually, is playing at West Didsbury and Chorlton. I'll be honest, I lived about 20 minutes away from West Didsbury in my student days, and I had absolutely no idea that they had a team kicking around there. So they played on Tuesday at Prestwich Hayes, and actually they drew.
Which was a bit of a shock.
It was. They were actually 2-0 down with half an hour to go, and then Connor J. Hughes has grabbed 2 goals to take a draw. But Prestwich Hayes, second from Broughton, you would have thought West Didsbury would have done the business there. So I don't know whether Prestwich had a decent bit of a purple patch there, or whether West Didsbury simply had an off day.
Yeah, and listen, it's a local derby, so a lot of pressure would have been on both teams there.
Yeah.
The home team's probably just got the... listen, it's a difficult ground to go and play on, Prestwich. I think we lost 2-1 ourselves there last season. So listen, they're still hanging on in there, AFC Liverpool as well. But the team that sort of... The form has sort of left them a little bit is FC St Helens, which is no biggie in terms of they won the league last season with a very established team in the Division 1 North. Did extremely well. I don't think, and listen, I'm pretty sure Mark Hayes, the sporting director, will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's vast amounts of money there. I think for the business that they're doing in the Premier League, they're not very well supported, and that doesn't help. I mean, I think it was 89 on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, something along those lines. So they lost at home to Earlham 1-0, and it was a crowd of 89 that went in and attended that game. So I think on those kind of games, when it's a really tight fixture, FC St Helens are 8th, Earlham and 9th. I think fan bases make all the difference in those games, and I think had they had a bigger and more vocal support, then that game could have probably won where St Helens took a draw. I could be wrong. I'm only speculating at this point, but I believe that fan base make a lot of difference to a team.
Well, certainly we know for a fact that they haven't got a big sugar daddy there ploughing money into it. But yet again, we spoke to Steve Hobson before, and you have to be careful in terms of what you aspire to be. You don't want to be. I was going to say Billy Big.
Punching above your weight.
Yeah. You don't want to be punching above your weight when you're when you're at that level. So I think
you find that you get knocked out quite easily if you do.
Yeah. So I think middle of table.
I think
for them, I think they can still achieve that. I think they need support, and some of them clubs above them have obviously got great support. Chatterton, when they get back to their new home, I think their support will go up.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about West Didsbury and Chorlton's, average gate. They played FC St Helens last Saturday, the 26th, beat them 3-1 with a crowd of 895 in attendance.
Fantastic.
That can be overwhelming. It really can at this level, where especially when you're not really used to that kind of gate, because I don't think there's any gate within that division apart from Bury that could match even close.
FC Alaman at home, they do particularly well with their crowds.
Yeah.
But like you say, you look at those top 8 to 10 teams. Ramsbottom, yet they're getting a little bit more support than they've had in the past, but not significant enough to warrant spending an extra few bob to keep yourself up at the top of the league. So I believe a very honestly run, hard-working backroom staff there.
Yeah.
Things are not coming easy. Things don't come easy for those football clubs, and they're the teams that you would like to think would get that additional support. I don't think Ramsbottom get enough support. I think back in the day when Skelmersdale United Football Club won the Northern Premier West Division, the crowds actually went down that season, which didn't make any sense. They won the league and the crowds went down. Never quite understood that, but football's a fickle game, and certainly is support. So you'd like to think that the additional support helps, but you look at West Didsbury got 4 games in hand, so they could go to 47 points. They could go 2 points behind Ramsbottom. So in terms of finances, if they're scraping those kind of gates together, then they can afford to be more. They can afford to spend more in the transfer market to strengthen as and when they need it.
Yeah.
The smaller clubs, when it gets to the nitty-gritty and the forced injuries and what have you, and they lose 1 or 2 players because they are successful, then you see them gradually sort of drop down a little bit. And I still think it's Berries to win, but I think there'll be 1 or 2 teams there that will probably push them. Really close, and I think West Didsbury might be just one of them Chadderton. I don't know about Lower Breck. Lower Breck weren't particularly a great team last season, but they do fantastic this season.
They are, yeah.
And yet they lost to Padiham.
They did. They lost to Padiham on Tuesday night, 2-1. I don't think it was one that was particularly expected. Padiham are sort of quite middle of the park, in terms of league placings. They're sitting in 10th, but they are on a reasonably good run of form. So they lost a couple of games ago, but otherwise they've been on a sort of quite a decent run of form. So just one loss in 7 with 4 wins to their name. So they are sort of starting to piece a good bit of form together, and they're right on the tails of Earlham, St Helens, AFC Liverpool, West Didsbury and Chorlton. It's actually incredibly tight in that middle of the park area, sort of between 13th and 5th. There's 7 points in it, so a couple of results one way or the other, and you're right in there with a fighting shout.
And the fixture's a little bit more balanced because it's got to that time of the year where it's leveling off now to 1 game a week rather than unless you're still involved in cup action.
Yes.
Pretty much the same at the bottom. Cone and Prestwich Hayes. You can't see. You maybe see 1 or 2 teams getting dragged into that, but Squiresgate seems to be getting the occasional decent result, which has dragged them out of that area.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good result against Barnoldswick Town. They won 2-1. Again, the turnout wasn't brilliant. It was 88 up Blackpool way, Squires Gate. But they are kind of dragging themselves away from that mire now. So they're on 22 points. Prestwich are on 9, Colne are on 6. So I think this is sort of becoming less of looking over your shoulder and more of respectable finishes. They're right on. They're up there with Glossop North End and Cheadle Town on 22 points, and Burscough in 16th.
I was going to talk about Burscough. The wheels seem to have come off the bus there. So, they've got a great manager in Dave Dempsey. Mm-hmm. They've got some great players in the team, and
certainly do.
Small margins.
Yeah,
probably so, but the third from bottom in terms of form, league form now. In form, overall form.
Yeah, quite. So 1 win in 6 for Burscough at the minute, which is a run that's only worsened by Litherland, Remica and Colne. They lost to a last-minute goal from John Murphy when visiting Prescott Cables.
In the Liverpool Senior Cup.
Yeah, in the Liverpool Senior
No embarrassment there really, because Prescott are doing particularly well in their division.
Certainly are. The wheels are coming off just a little bit.
Listen, they're good enough. They've got, like I said, they've got a great manager there. He's got a lot of experience. I'm sure he'll get things together there, and they'll start creeping back up the table a little bit. I think they need to, because they've got a great infrastructure there now. It's a great little ground, as we know, because we watch here there. It's a fantastic, lovely clubhouse, and every time you turn up there, Paul, the chairman and the loyal backroom staff there. Are doing something, a little bit of something every time you go there. There's always a change every time you go up there. So you wish all the best for them.
Certainly do.
But like you say, right now it's
business as usual down at the bottom.
Yeah, business as usual. So moving on to the Division 1 North.
Our league.
Our league,
as we like to call it.
And Davy Jones is doing a fantastic job
there.
Davy
Jones, what a runaway he's having with the league. So Atherton I compared him to Atletico Madrid, for their ability to kind of grind out results.
He'd love that, no doubt. We're going to have to get him on the show soon.
We absolutely need to get Davy Jones on the show. If you'd like to see Davy Jones on the show, please comment and with your backing, and we'll show that to Davy Jones and tell him that he's a man in demand.
Yeah, and give us a ring. Give us a ring.
Yeah, so their last result was on Saturday just gone. It was actually sort of goal heavy by Atherton standards. It was a 4-2 win away at Maghull, where they found themselves 1-0 down after 4 minutes, but then they sort of turned the tide, took control of the game. 2 goals, 2 penalties actually from Harvey Sample, and then Dan Lenihan and Dave Moore both contributed 1 each to kind of push them well clear of Maghull. They now have sort of the clash of the Titans, if you like, because they host Holker Old Boys, who are second in the league, and they're second only by a 3-point difference. So you would imagine, or you would certainly like to believe, that whoever wins this game can, reasonably push on and win the whole thing. Holker actually had a bit of a banana skin game against AFC
bit of a blip, didn't he?
Blackpool. Yeah, so
We say blip, but AFC Blackpool, we played them twice, and they're a good side.
They certainly are, yeah, and they've got some really talented players on show. I mean, I know we were blowing the horn of Luke Heppel last week on the show after the kind of riots that he orchestrated when we played them, but he's part of that team that beat Holker Old Boys 5-1 earlier on in the season at home. They've gone up to Holker and they've done damage again. They've beaten them by 4-2, which has lifted them up into 9th. They're just outside the playoffs, only by sort of 6 points off Droylsden. So they're a bit of a they're either winning games or they're losing games. 9 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw, 2 goal difference between them. But Holker Old Boys, they absolutely show up on game day. So yeah, it'll be really.
What we do know is we know that Holker scored a lot of goals, but on the flip side of that, Atherton, like you said, they don't tend to score. The margins of victory are not normally huge, so they're a great defensive unit.
Absolutely, they are by far and away the tightest defence in the league. They've only conceded 12 this season. The only club that's conceded sort of nearly as few as them are Droylsden and Exton Villa, who've both conceded 19, which probably shows you the scale of how impressive Atherton's defence is. I mean, their goal-scoring exploits won't put them anywhere near the top of the table. They've only scored 40 in comparison. Holker Old Boys have scored 51, Nelson 42, Bacup 44, AFC Blackpool 46. Even Maghull have scored 40. So they're not known for their absolute goal-scoring exploits, but they're doing enough on the defensive side to see them at the top.
So we could probably suggest from that Davy Jones is probably a tactical genius, and that's how he's winning these games.
Oh, I think he'd be very grateful with that assertion. A
bit of a chess player.
I think a chess player is one word. I wouldn't like to go so far as to say Bus Parker, but he'd probably give us a bit more insight into that as and when we do get him on the show.
Certainly be interested to listen to him.
Yeah.
Listen, on the flip side of that, two results that didn't particularly go our way. Obviously, we lost, but Steeton and Garstang winning their games.
Yeah, they did. So
bad results for us, but then what we shouldn't be doing is we shouldn't be getting embroiled in looking at teams above us. We've got to concentrate on what we can do.
Yeah, we really should. I mean, we'll mention it, just for you listeners, but Steeton pulled off a bit of a surprise by winning 2-1 at home to Exton Villa. 2 goals by Josh Debenham, very close to half-time. We talked about the impact of half-time goals. Josh Debenham's got one in the 38th minute via a penalty, and then he's added one in the first minute of stoppage time at the end of that first half, and that seemed to have kind of done the business, really. Exton have pulled one back, but not that second goal that they needed. Garstang went away to Thornton Cleveley's against over 400 supporters on that day and pulled off a wonderful 2-1 win for themselves there. So they'll be celebrating all the way the length of the M55 there. So I mean, like you say, it's good results for them, and of course, football is winning, if you like, by having those clubs down there winning against sort of your middle of the park players like Thornton Cleveley's and Exton Villa.
Well, Exton Villa have not really kicked on from last season, have they? They were in the playoffs and they've not really kicked on this season.
No, not really. So their run of domestic form isn't great at all. So they've won 3 and lost 3. They have an on and off game each week. So it's their pattern of play of results is win, loss,
I think
win,
they lost
loss.
their goal scorer as well, didn't they, Raj? I think he went to Bearsco initially and then he's moved on since. So that would have been a big loss for them in terms of scoring goals.
Yeah, I think so. They've got 30 goals overall this season, which is the lowest scoring team in the upper half of the table, and they conceded 19. So as I say, they aren't sure of defensive capabilities.
Yeah.
But that one was
score the goals.
They are struggling to score the goals down at the other end. So credit
which suggests losing their all-star centre forward has put them in the position they are right now.
Yeah.
Ashton Town, Kevin Towie, ex-Skem player. I would imagine now he's under pressure there. 16 points.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a comprehensive loss away at Darwen FC, who have said we play on Saturday. Those two teams are sort of down there in the lower echelon. So Darwen are sitting 13th, Ashton Town sitting 14th. Darwin's run of form isn't spectacular. Won 3. Lost 3. They lost 3 games on the spin before kind of arresting that slide.
Just noticed one thing there though. They haven't had one single draw yet.
No, they're not used to drawing, are they? They won 6 and lost 10.
It's win at all costs for us. On Saturday.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, we gave them a good game at the start of the season.
Well, that's the most surprising thing, really, isn't it? They seem to be a very assured, free-flowing football team. We expected them probably to be a little bit loftier than they actually are now. Which was surprise to me.
Yeah. So Ashton, starting to come under a little bit of pressure now.
Particularly now Steeton won. They sort of reduced that gap between them.
Quite
and there's only 5 points between that and the drop. So albeit the bottom 4 teams have got really inferior
goal differences.
So listen, it's an interesting one. We're not expecting all the teams to go down in the north or south, which brings us to the south and then the roundup of what we think the results will be.
Our guesstimates, yeah.
Yeah, Stafford won as we expected, but the surprise team was the bottom club.
Absolutely.
Runcorn beating second placed Alsager.
Yes, they did. So it was a really, really good result.
They were second placed at the time, I should say.
They were, yeah. They've now dropped down to third with Winsford United jumping up into second place. Really good result for Runcorn Town, beating Alsager by 2-0. Not only scoring, which hasn't exactly come easily for Runcorn Town. 24 goals scored in all comps. That was in the domestic league. Pardon me. That was their 3rd win of the season, and getting a clean sheet against Alsager is a big result for them. Yeah,
and then they went on to win in the Liverpool CNA Cup to beat AFC Liverpool in midweek. So there seems to be a bit of a renaissance.
I suppose you could call it a renaissance. Just looking at the form table, they're nowhere near the bottom. Actually, they've got 2 wins in their last 6 games. Obviously, they've been on a 4-game losing streak before, kind of like I say, arresting that slide. With good results elsewhere. But no, they're like you said. I would echo that sentiment. They are starting to find a good little bit of form at the right time. Wolverhampton Sporting Community and Shawbury United and Foley Mere are all kind of 4 points ahead of Runcorn.
Yeah, come out around town for them, really. They've won their game, and Wolverhampton have won theirs, and Foley have drew a game. So the two teams directly above them have managed to get points. But once again, you've just got to concentrate on what you can do. They won, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so some good results to kind of take into the weekend for them.
And I think you can't pass by without mentioning Market Drayton. They won 8-2 against All Scott Heath.
Yeah,
quite a victory for them.
Yeah, it absolutely was. So they got their first goal in the first minute. Then Nicky Parker helped himself to a hat trick. Isaac Shaw coming in with a late double to just kind of add the glossing on the cake. Interestingly enough, though, it was 2-2 at half time. So between Market Drayton and Allscott Heath, both of them could have thought that they would that they could win it, but then Market Drayton have absolutely run away with it. Again, they started quick, the goal within the first minute of the second half, and then they just kind of kicked on from there. Really, so what a result that.
The idea of conceding 6 goals in the second half is. Oh, mind you, we conceded 7, didn't we?
Let's not. Well, yeah, but I mean, there's a world of difference between playing a team in the same league and then playing a team 3 leagues above you.
So I've gone from thinking, Runcorn Town a relegation fodder to thinking now that they've
pull off a bit of an escape.
They've got a fighting chance in it.
Yeah.
You never know that they're only 4 points behind. No. Yeah, incredible. Yeah,
it really is. So I mean, I don't know how this season could pan out for them. But I mean, if they kick on like this, they'll absolutely finish in a really, really respectable position. It's tight down there at the bottom. 7 points separating 13th from 18th. Again, just a couple of games. Go your way, and you're right back in there with a fighting chance.
Nobody wants to be bottom of the table at this stage, particularly in the north and south, because most of us have wandered over that halfway stage.
Yeah, we have.
They're in a similar position to us. They've got 16 games left, but they're 8 points better off. So I think they've certainly definitely got a fighting chance.
Yeah.
And moving on to the final bit of the show and the fixtures over the weekend.
Yeah.
FC St Helens, Chadderton.
Yeah. So it's a lovely little Friday night lights game up there. I expect Chadderton to do the business here. Like we've already said, FC St Helens, their steam is starting to run out a little bit now. And I don't think the lack of crowds on a Friday night is going to help them. So I fully expect an away win there. Yeah,
unfortunately, I agree with you there. Lower Breck, Bearscough, difficult one to call because Lower Breck come unstuck. And Bearscough, just a bad run of form. It's away from home. It's a Friday night.
Yeah, I think they
it's a tough one to call there.
I mean, looking at the form, obviously Bearscough are sort of down there at the bottom end of it. But Lower Breck aren't much higher themselves. 3 losses in their last 6. 8 goals scored, 12 goals conceded. I don't expect that to be a particular goal fest, but I do think home advantage will count for something for Lower Breck, so I will say a home win there.
I'll go for a draw. Listen, at this point it's worthwhile saying that I got 14 correct results. I've not worked yours out, but I think we were pretty close to each other. But I actually got 2 scores correct as well. I'm not gonna go rummaging around for it now, but I'm just saying that to get 14 out of what was it? There must have been about 30, 40 games. Not a bad day. I wish he'd have done the pools.
He should have put his lottery numbers out, shouldn't he? Goodness me. Right, we'll go on to the Saturday fixtures starting at the in the Premier Division. So we open up with Cheadletown versus Squires Gate. So we already talked about Squires Gate pulling together one or two good results. Obviously, they had a really good result for themselves against Barnoldswick. So it's a little bit more difficult to predict than what I would make out to be. Cheadletown sitting 12th in the form table and sitting 17th in the domestic table, with Squiresgate in 19th. I think Squiresgate will look to play the form advantage there, but I do think Cheadletown will be sort of smart enough and savvy enough, so I'm going to go for a draw here.
You know what? I was guessing that. It looks as though you were going to go for Cheadle, and then you've gone for the safe bet draw. And you know what? Who am I to disagree? I think it will be a draw. I think Squiresgate are getting the odd result here and there. They're obviously difficult to beat now. So. Yeah. I think, a draw is a fair reflection of what could be of that game.
Yeah, I think so. But however, this one is probably a little bit more straightforward, and I mean that with the greatest respect. It's Bury versus Pilkington. I think Bury is starting to sort of hit their stride a heck of a lot more now. They're on a reasonably sort of good run of form. I think the league position will really count for something here, so that'll be a home win, I'm suspecting.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think, without a shadow of a doubt, Bury will be conscious of the fact now is that the longer Ramsbottom remain unbeaten, it's that distance of 11 points is still there. I mean, we're taking it for granted that Bury are gonna make that ground up. I think they've got a good enough squad. I think what's going on there at the moment is fantastic. So I definitely think they're not going to come unstuck against Pilkington because their run of form hasn't been particularly good. Bury all day long with that one, and I think it might be a considerable score to boot. But
we'll wait and see on that one.
I hope not. I hope not too much of an embarrassment because, like I say,
these kind of results are never good for anybody within the context of the game and within the context of the season, and certainly in morale. But the home win does sort of seem more likely than not. The next fixture is actually going to be quite an interesting one. It's Charnock Richard versus Stockport Town.
Who beat Burscough last week?
Stockport Town did beat Burscough last week. Again, a bit of an up and down sort of run of form. 3 wins and 3 losses in the last 6, sitting in 11th. Charnock Richard are breathing down their necks, so 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws out of their last 6, and they are sitting in 11th. There's only a points difference separating Charnock Richard from Stockport Town, and I think their run of form will probably indicate, just like their table placing, that this one has got a draw on it.
I would have gone for a draw, but I think just purely based on the home advantage, I'm going to go for Charnock on that one.
All right.
Yeah, surprisingly. The next one's probably the most interesting one, because if Cone have got any chance of, coming close to getting out of that bottom spot, then they're going to have to beat the likes of Little and Remica, who are also near the foot of the table.
Certainly are. So, as we say, Colne are 24th, Little and Remica are 20th. Their form table is 6 straight losses for Colne. Little and Remica 1 win and 1 draw from the last 6. I'm just putting my football head on and not getting emotionally involved in this. I think Little and Remica will probably have too much for Colne, so I will say an away win on that one.
Well, I'm going to be controversial. You're going for Little, did you say?
I did, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to go for Colne, purely based on the fact that they've got the home advantage, plus the pitch will play a big part in that as well. So I'll go for Colne on that one.
Alrighty.
Glossop North End versus Ramsbottom. We talked about last week's game against Glossop and Abbey Hay being the top of the table in terms of discipline. We haven't got the discipline table, but I believe the discipline is just as pretty much as it was last week. I think Glossop lead the way and Abbey Hay are just tucked behind. So not much of that changed. I think I said to, we spoke to Richard Brodie, and I said to him that I think it'll be the team that keeps the discipline that wins. It looks as though they dished out more cards to Abbey Hay. Glossop were the more disciplined team, but they still lost. So that was my prediction. Got up the Swanee
window. They sort of played a lot fairer last week against Abbey Hay, whereas this one is a bit of a different beast altogether. Ramsbottom United come to town on the back of a glorious run of form, top of the league in both form and sort of domestic results, and I can't really see any other result. As much as I put my faith in Brodie, to get his Glossop North End team firing, I just think Ramsbottom will have a bit too much firepower for them, so I will say in a way win there.
Yeah, off the basis of form, Ramsbottom definitely the form team, and the leaders by via the point situation there. I think great team. They've been playing really well. I think Glossop North End, going to Glossop North End on a Saturday afternoon with a half decent crowd. I think it's an energy sapping pitch, and I think Glossop are well aware of that. And I think what they tend to do is they tend to come if it's 0-0, 1-1, 2-2 going into the last 20 minutes. I'd put my money on either Glossop holding their own or improving it and winning it. So on that basis, I'm going to go split through the middle there, and I'm going to say they're going to get a draw because I think like I say, it's an energy sapping pitch, and I think providing he's got, I think he had about 12 to 15 players out the other week, and he's struggling with injuries. But I think if he has a fully fit team, I think he's more than capable of pulling off a draw there, possibly a win. But I'll go for a draw.
Alrighty. So the next game is Earlham versus Padiham. Again, a bit like Charnock Richards and Stockport Town, two teams who aren't separated by much at all. So in terms of form, it's Earlham who have definitely got the advantage. 4 wins from their last 6, a high rate of goal scoring with quite a mean defence. Just 4 goals conceded in the last 6 games, whereas Padiham, again, sort of really respectable standing of forms. They're 3 wins and 2 draws from their last 6 games, but again a high goal scoring turnout, 17 goals scored. From those 6 games. This is a really difficult one. The form table you would imagine would just sort of send it Earlham's way based on the 4 wins, but for me it's the 2 losses combined with Padiham's 2 draws that are sort of splitting the decision for me. Looking at the league table, they're 9th and 10th with the exact same amount of points. So on that basis, I'm going to go for a draw here as well.
Fabulous little setup there. Lovely ground, lovely people down there. I think even Angry Ginge, have you heard of him?
Angry Ginge?
When we went to watch them last season, I think he was at the ground. Was it Earlham? Somebody will tell me it was somewhere totally different.
Who is this guy?
He's one of these YouTubers, isn't he? He's got he's got a huge following. I think, but based on probably if you look at the home and away form, I think Earlham will win that one. So I'm going to go for Earlham just purely based on the fact that Earlham's home form would probably be marginally better than Padim's away form. But I've not looked at the form book there on that one, so I might be wrong. Press change, Barnoldswick Town.
Yeah, so Barnoldswick didn't have a great result with that loss to Squires Gate. It's their second loss in 6. Like I say, 3 wins, so it's not a worrisome time for Barnoldswick by any stretch of the imagination, and they're coming up against a Prestwich Hayes team who, had a really decent draw against West Didsbury and Chorlton, but I wonder whether that's a blip for Hayes or whether they're able to kick on that one. My head says no, and it was just a good kind of luck of the draw or win, if you like. So we'll say that Barnoldswick will take this one.
Yeah, I've gone for Barnoldswick as well. Yeah, South Liverpool, Longridge. South Liverpool picked up the odd points here and there and just keeping themselves above the drop zone.
Yeah.
I still think Longridge will, for me, I'm going for Longridge.
Yeah, Longridge had a really decent result in midweek away at Clitheroe, won 4-1, and their league position, is pretty decent by all accounts. They're 15th, so sort of quite stable, middle of the park. If you'd like to see South Liverpool, good couple of results here and there, but nothing spectacular. So I'd say an away win there.
And the topsy-turvy sort of results from AFC Liverpool, they're away at West Didsbury and Chorlton. I think with they'll have a big crowd there, a very passionate crowd, singing all the way through the game and no doubt beating drums and blowing trumpets. So
the kind of thing we experienced at Droylsden. You could reasonably be guaranteed they'd replicate that over at the Step Places Stadium. You're going to go home win?
Yeah, West Didsbury without a shadow of a doubt.
I think so too, yeah.
Alaman Abbey Hay, difficult one because it's all about how you travel.
Saturday night
6 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, that's a late one, Saturday Night Lights. I wonder if it's being televised. It's out of the blackout. FC Isle of Man on home.
I don't think they do a live stream, by the way. You can, you can go into the live stream. I think you pay $5 or something like that.
Well, if you are stuck for something to do on a Saturday night, by all means, investigate FC Isle of Man's streaming services and see if they do. Then pay the $5, and then you've got yourself sorted for the evening. So I think with home advantage, I think that counts for a lot for FC Isle of Man. The majority of the crowd is going to be behind them. I do wonder whether kind of away fans travel to that game.
Well, we did in our numbers last season. There must have been about between 60 and 80 people travelled over to the Isle of Man. It was a great weekend, by the way. The Isle of Man is a fantastic island. There's absolutely steeped in history as well. You can, if you start getting around there a little bit, you can go and sit down next to Norman Wisdom and get a photograph taken with him, and if further along the promenade you can go and stand up alongside the Bee Gees that were born on the Isle of Man as well.
No way, I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, on the basis of them being sort of backed by the Bee Gees and Norman Wisdom, I'm going to go for a home win.
How deep is your love? Right, so that's definitely FC Isle of Man for me. Listen, we'll race a little bit through. So what I've noticed is now it's not been printed off the Division 1 South, but we'll go through the Division 1 South first. Allscott Heath are playing Cameliards, so that's pretty much a bottom of the table, is it?
Yeah, I mean Allscott Heath will still be reeling from that lashing that they were dealt out earlier on this week. They have managed 2 wins in their last 6 games, but their rate of concession is worse than any other team in the division.
Well, based on the fact there that Cameliard have conceded less goals, I'll go for Cameliard on that one.
I think on this one, I'm going to be a little bit more sort of controversial on this one, and I think a draw will probably be the result.
Right. Barnton versus Market Drayton. Now, Market Drayton had that big win, that 8-2. I think they'll be full of fizz and confidence. They played Barnton. There's not much separating them, both on 21 points. But Market Drayton have got, by fact of an 8-2 victory, they've got a +8 goal difference as opposed to Barnton's, which is -8. So I'll go for definitely Market Drayton there.
Yeah, I think I'll probably be inclined to agree with you on that one.
Cheadle Heath, and obviously they're playing Foley. I think that's a Cheadle Heath for me because
Cheadle Heath.
They're doing well.
Middle of the park.
Playoff.
Yeah,
they're in the playoff positions.
Oh, pardon me. They have got.
Yeah, they're in the playoff positions.
Yeah.
And Foley, albeit they managed to scrape a point together at the weekend, I think it'll be too much for them.
It's a little too and far between, really, isn't it? So I think Cheadle will take that one.
So then you've got your New Mills, which are just outside the playoffs, and they've got Abbey Holton,
who are middle of the road, really.
Yeah, the middle of the league.
Yeah,
I think I've got to go with New Mills. New Mills, difficult place to go.
Yeah,
up in the Pennines. Then depends what kind of weather you get.
Yeah, I mean their run of form isn't spectacular. 2 wins and 4 losses, 7 goals scored, 7 goals conceded. So I think they're probably encountering a blip, but I would expect them to get back on track here.
Yeah.
So I'll say a win for
New Mills.
For New Mills, yeah.
Sandbach versus Stockport Georgians.
So this is an interesting one because they're both doing really well domestically. Both got 4 wins and 2 losses from their last 6 games, and where they were sort of sitting middle of the park, Sandbach are sort of making a bit of a shove up the league. Yeah, they had a decent win in the middle of the week away at Allscott Heath. So I think that sort of could play a bit of a factor into how they approach this game. Stockport Georgians are sort of getting sort of sucked into that bottom of the table mire. So I would say Sandbach. It's probably the right right estimation there.
Top of the table clash: Stafford Town versus Winsford United, first and second, respectively.
Yeah, both unbeaten in their last 6 games, sort of six straight wins for all. Stafford Town though 1 goal conceded in 6. 21 scored. Winsford
52 goals scored in 16 games.
I mean, Winsford's isn't unrespectable. 14 goals scored and 3 goals conceded across their 6 games. 37 across the 16 scored and 10 conceded. But I really only see that going one way. I think this is
go for Stafford on that one.
Yeah, of course.
And Wolverhampton Sporting Community had a win. Had a win last week, but they're playing Alsager. Alsager will be keen to get back to winning ways. But that said, they'll realise that how vulnerable they are because they got beat by Runcorn Town at the bottom.
They did. And I do wonder whether that says more for how well Runcorn Town's little renaissance appears to be going and less about whether Alsager are wobbling. They're still very comfortably within that playoff push, if you like, and there's every chance that they could overhaul Winsford into second place. So I would still kind of put that one on as an Alsager win.
Yeah, definitely go along with that. So that rounds up the Division 1 South, and we'll just focus on our Division 1 North.
The one you've all been waiting for.
The one that you've all been waiting for. And we'll leave our prediction to last on in terms of our game.
Our own game, yeah.
Some interesting games. AFC Blackpool versus Main Road. We played both. Main Road. We shipped 6 goals against them.
We did, yeah. Whereas Blackpool we shipped 6 goals across 2 games and still managed to score a couple against them. Again, Blackpool were really hit and miss team. Had great results against Holker Old Boys, but then they've struggled against others. They're not great at keeping the ball out of their own net, whereas Main Road sort of are. They've got a good defensive record and they're firmly within that playoff push. So I will say an away win here.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. That I think purely because Main Road are up there in the actually in the playoff positions at the moment, will just give them that edge. But it's a difficult. It's probably got a draw written all over it. But the difference is, like you say, 6 of the goals that Main Road scored were against us. And AFC Blackpool are on 46. They've scored 46 goals, but they're conceding
44, which is
I'm going based on the fact that Main Road have only conceded 20 goals. I'm going Main Road. Ashton Town versus Bacup Borough. Listen, this is an opportunity for Kev to get things back together at Ashton, and I hope he can beat them. But Bacup going to be a tough team.
Very fit. Good on the counter, very physical, as we've discussed earlier on in the show. I know Ashton are on they didn't have the greatest result over the week. Was it 3-0 loss? Was it? Oh no, sorry, pardon me. They won 2-1 in the cup over Litherland. Remica. It was the game before that was sort of a bit of a Darwin, Derby downer for them. So it was Darwin away where they lost. I would still back Ashton to do a bit of a good job here.
I think he's under an awful lot of pressure, and I think the team. That will sort of translate to the team, transfer to the team as well. Bacup off the back of probably what they felt should have been a draw against us. It's probably got a draw written all over it. I think just purely based on the pressure, I think Kev will come out of it on top, because I think he might enjoy the pressure and he might have a point to prove. So I'm going to go surprisingly for Ashton Town for that one.
Yeah, I think even though that he'll enjoy the pressure, he's got home advantage and stuff like that. I think Bacup are 6th for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think they use their physical and constraints and their fitness to their advantage. So on that result, even though he got the crowd behind him, I'm going to say a draw.
Yeah, well, listen, Adam, I would have agreed with the draw, but I just feel as though there's got a bit of an edge to this game, and listen, they get a decent crowd at Ashton now. That might be just enough to pull them over the line.
Yeah,
so
we certainly wish Steve and Kev all the best.
Yeah, definitely. Atherton LR versus Holker All Boys is the big game.
Of course.
And you probably say you put your money on a draw.
So for me, I think Atherton's watertight defence is the reason that they're at the top.
Yeah.
And Holker All Boys have just come off the back of that spin over against Blackpool. They're not, they're not exactly immune to an odd result here and there, and I think on that basis alone, I'm backing Davey and the boys to do the job there. So I'm going to go home win.
Yeah, listen, they've drawn a couple of games each, haven't they? So listen, they both know how to win a game. Holker score more goals. The defence is good. Yeah, what have you got to draw?
I've got a home win purely based on Atherton's defensive exploits. I can't see Holker getting past them. I don't think they are that free scoring.
Oh, okay. I'll go with you then. I'll go Atherton LR for a win there. Albeit I think it's going to be a draw. But if it was playing the money odds, I'd go for it. I'd put my money on Atherton. If I wanted a safe bet, I wouldn't get any. I'd just get evens. I'd just get my money back one day. So I'm not going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for Atherton LR.
There you go.
Exton Villa
against Daisy Hill.
Interesting one.
It really is. Both of these teams are a bit of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in their results and their gameplay.
Worth noting though, Daisy Hill have scored 29 goals. 6 of them were against us in one game. That was in the league, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Whereas Exton Villa came to our ground and won 4-2. So they've scored 30, which is almost one more than Daisy Hill, but they've conceded 10 less. With home advantage, I would say Exton Villa.
I'm going to go for Exton Villa as well. I think they'll be keen to make that push for the playoffs again. That's sort of the benchmark for them now after what they've been doing the last couple of seasons.
I think you'd expect that from them. Yeah, you're right. So Garstang versus Ashton Athletic.
Well, we know what we want the result to be.
We certainly do, and I believe that result will go our way. I think Ashton are up there in 7th spot. They've got a game in hand on Bacup and on Main Road, both a couple of points ahead of them. Bacup level on points, Main Road 2 points behind. So obviously Garstang have had a good result against Thornton Cleveland's. But I am still fully expecting.
I'm going for Ashton Athletic purely because I want them to win. Nothing against Garstang other than the fact that we want to get close to you rather than further away. So I'm going for Ashton Athletic and hoping that the
football gods are smiling on us.
Yeah, definitely, and certainly the brothers up there. His name fails me right now. The
the Ashton Athletic brothers?
Yeah, the Nicholsons. I'm just hoping the Skem lads, the Nicholsons will do us a favour and kick their butts. But listen.
Yeah, this is another game that we're sort of looking on with particular interest. It's Maghull at home to Route 1 Rovers.
Yeah.
I think this one is a little bit more straightforward. Maghull sort of quite respectable. Stability in 11th. Route 1 Rovers are down at 17th. Not particularly fantastic run of form, although they did get quite a creditable draw a couple of weeks ago at Steeton, I think it was.
Yeah, but if we want to float, we've got to float above Route 1 Rovers.
Yeah.
Listen, all kinds of things could happen here. You just hope that Route 1 Rovers don't travel well. My money's on Maghull.
Mine is too.
And I'm hoping that they'll do us a favour, considering that our M58 derby rivals. Nelson, Thornton, Cleveland's. I can only see one result there myself.
So can I. Yeah, Nelson's sort of perennial heavyweights in the division, really. Right up there in fourth place. They've had to contend with a couple of departures, either through sort of wanting new opportunities or retirement through injuries, but I don't see it hampering their progress this early. So,
and they'll want to take advantage of the potential for a draw, or certainly if they don't, Atherton and Holker don't draw, then somebody's going to lose the game, and that presents them the opportunity to either get into second place or narrow the gap. So I think from that perspective, I think Nelson will be well up for that. I don't think there's any problems with Thornton Cleveland's. I think Thornton Cleveland's nice ground, lovely, improve it. I think when we got there, they just put the floodlights up, hadn't they? So it's a club that's working towards a goal. A nice club, nice people there. Steady Eddies, I don't think they're going to get sucked into the relegation mire.
No.
I think they'll be okay, but I think Nelson will be too tough for them.
Yes,
we won't come to Skem yet. We'll just go straight to Steeton versus Drolsen, and hoping that Davy Pace, our friend up in Droylsden, will do us a favour and take all the points against Steeton.
I think so. So Droylsden and Steeton, they're not a million miles away from each other, really. I know Steeton's based in Yorkshire, but they're as close to the Pennines as you could probably get within this division, really. So I'm expecting a big crowd from Droylsden to go over to Steeton. Steeton isn't a big place. They don't draw massive crowds. I think they average about 80 to 100. So I think away advantage will actually count in Droylsden's favour here. I am going to go for an away win there.
Yeah, definitely Droylsden for me, and that's not just because obviously want to reduce the gap or keep the gap as it is, but purely based on the fact that I think Droylsden are a much better organised team, which comes to the main focus, which always is we start with Skelmersdale and we end with Skelmersdale United.
Yeah, we do.
A tough game.
Yes.
For us, one of our old players, Bruno, scored on his debut at Darwin, I think.
He did.
The other day.
Yeah, they had a decent 3-0 result against Ashton Town, and he got the third goal, 7 minutes from time. I think he's probably the out and out goal scoring replacement that they wanted. I've mentioned before, Leon Creech left the club. And the goals haven't exactly dried up, but I think Bruno is a sort of good, consistent goal scorer. Despite the game against Warrington Rylands, I think the boys will be taking a lot of what we got from the Bake-Up game into this game. I think that it won't just be a physically challenging game. I don't think Darwin play that kind of football, but they are fast on the break, which is the thing that we've got to watch out for. So if we stay disciplined, sit deep, plug all the gaps, I think we could get a draw here.
Yeah, listen, that's a bold prediction. The one thing that Tommy will have the benefit of going into this game is his relationship with Kevin Towie and the fact that Ashton Town have been recently beaten by Darwin. So in terms of homework, maybe even VO coverage, I think he'll be able to analyse the good and the bad. Certainly there's plenty to look at if you're looking at Bruno in terms of YouTube coverage. You can pretty much find out all you need to know about Bruno. I think the problem that we have is, and I'm being open and honest here, is we've said it before, we've never quite had that opportunity to say, right, let's go again with the same team. I think the team that we're likely to start with tomorrow is going to be is going to make life difficult for us. That said, you take away the wounds from the defeat at Warrington Rylands, and then you bring maybe 3 or 4 different players into the team that haven't been beaten 10-1. And that might just do well for us. I think we've got to start winning. I think we all know we've got to start winning at some point. I'm an eternal optimist. I think, if we get a draw, it'll be a success, because it will stop that rot, the malaise of losing God knows how many games on the trot. I don't think the supporters will buy a draw, by and large. Certainly the keyboard warriors won't want that. I think the genuine supporters of Skem will take anything out of this game.
Yeah.
But like I say, being the eternal optimist, I think Skem United might just win their first game. But I've said this before. But it has to start somewhere.
Yeah,
and why not start against Darwin? And listen, we don't even know whether they've got injuries or whether Bruno will be starting. But there's all of these things to sort of take into the equation. So we don't really know. But hope, fingers crossed. I want a Skelm United win. I can see it happening. There's not a great deal of difference between the two. The fact that they've not drawn a game, Darwin, suggests that
afraid of drawing.
it's either win or lose. We were in a similar position until it was broken at some point last season. I think we went through an entire season without drawing a game. So I think when you get into that situation, you're halfway through your season. You probably look at the league table and you think to yourself, right, I'm not going to draw a game. That becomes a sort of priority then. So you either go all in to win or you lose. So hopefully Skelm get their first win. I certainly hope that's the case.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
But,
we'll have to see what happens come 5 o'clock on Saturday evening.
Yeah, listen, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
AJ will give you his parting words as he normally does, but thanks for the support, because statistically it's been well supported. I know it's a little bit sketchy here and there at times because we're sort of wading our way through a lot of paperwork and what have you. We got a very short window of time, very much a pilot project when we started it, but we're 3 shows in now. And we're enjoying it. We know that the feedback is that a lot of people are enjoying it too. So I'll let AJ finish off.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Thanks so much to our guest Steve for his wonderful excerpts and insights into running a club. Please remember to follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts to be sure that you don't miss out on the latest episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Be sure also to follow Skelmersdale United Football Club as well to see how we're doing on the pitch there. And we'll see you very soon for another episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Bye-bye for now.
Goodbye.